Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and today we're doing another indie horror spotlight. Today I have with us, he's a director. He has a short film right now that I had the privilege of seeing, and it's called At the End of the Hall. I have with us Eric Albert Brandstrom. Eric, welcome to the Horror Room.
Thanks for having me on, Travis. I'm a big fan of this program.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you, my friend. I definitely appreciate that, man. When I hear stuff like that, it keeps me motivated. It keeps me going. I mean, because as you know, we'll talk about your podcast, but having a podcast or YouTube channel, man, sometimes, your motivation level can go like this. And when you hear positive reviews, it always keeps you going, man.
Well, with your show in particular, it's really easy to find horror podcasts with established filmmakers and even up-and-coming filmmakers that have one really hot movie. But to find a good pod or a good show on YouTube where it's just up-and-comers like me, just looking for answers, how to find resources, and to work on a minimum to no budget, it's hard to come by. So I was glad I stumbled upon you.
Thanks, man. I think I'm the only one who's doing it too. I think I'm the only one who's doing it successfully. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. So write it out.
So I had the chance of watching At the End of the Hall on YouTube. I'm gonna do a review of it, but and by the way, for everyone, so that it's gonna be coming up soon. But I really enjoyed this movie. Tell my guests a little bit about At the End of the Hall.
Well, it's a short horror film. It's a narrative. I like to kind of describe it as something you'd see kind of in a horror anthology. That's kind of how I got into horror, was Creepshow and Trilogy of Terror. And I really miss seeing just these 20-minute patient horror movies that kind of take their time to tell a story. There's so many cool horror shorts out there, but the trend nowadays is girls on the phone on her couch, and then scary face pops out, and then it's over. That can be fun. I'm a big David Sandberg fan. He started all that. But I've been a little hungry for bigger stories told in kind of that streamlined 20-minute format. So that's kind of where I'm aiming right now. This project in particular, I just started thinking about vampires and what I haven't seen in that genre. So I just thought about maybe setting a period piece of a man who discovers that his wife has succumbed to the curse of vampirism, and what is he going to do, especially in a small town in suburban 1950s. It's a whole different world back then. So I thought that dynamic could be interesting in terms of horror, and I also tried to blend in some relational aspects. A lot of the subtext with that film, At the End of the Hall, is it's really about how to make a marriage work in general when your partner changes and you change and you're powerless to stop that change from coming, and the inevitability of that change, and what you can do about it. So if you're into, horror with just a little bit more of a cerebral subtext, I think you would dig it.
Yes, and I agree, man. Listen, I watch a lot of short horror films. Actually, I reviewed one recently, and it was almost a perfect movie, but the one negative I said was, I felt like it was too rushed, and that's crazy to say about a short film. But I felt like if they would have added 10 more minutes on, this would have been a perfect movie. And yes, I understand the concept of a short film, but sometimes, as an audience, you just need a little bit more meat on the bone, and you can deliver something that's amazing.
I don't want to speak for any other filmmakers, and like I said, I've seen some amazing films that follow this trend I've been watching, but I think there is a tendency to follow these save the cat guidelines when it comes to film festivals, and what they're looking for is 8 to 10 minutes or you're not getting in it. They want you to cut the baggage, and I think people are getting bogged down by what they think their short film in this horror genre needs to be, and I'd like to see more people just try to relax and tell a good story.
And I 100% agree. Now talking about your movie, I love the cinematography behind us. You almost use a classic analog look. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, going back to this modern look of horror ever since kind of Blumhouse came along, and again, I'll keep saying it because they deserve their credit. There's films in Blumhouse and A24 that I love, but they're starting to look like fucking car commercials. The cinematography in those is so crystal clear that they look like fucking car commercials. And I never get scared when I see these Blumhouse films because they're so clean. There's no grit and there's no edge into them. So what I wanted to try to achieve is just kind of a grimy look that I used to see in films like Creepshow 2 and Evil Dead. And the way I achieve it is just to shoot on my iPhone using an app. It's called 8mm. If you like the look of my films, grab that app called 8mm and play with some of those filters. And what it does, it just kind of denigrates the picture a little bit, so it's not too clear. And when you catch movies like Ty West does it, Travis, and they're trying to evoke a sort of style that catches you off guard a little bit. Maybe reminds you of something that you could think to yourself, well, did this already come out? Like, is this an old movie? Is this new? Kind of having that questioning kind of gets you in a little bit more, so you don't feel like you're watching another Netflix streamer.
I agree. And if you watch my channel, you know I'm a huge Ty West fan. And but like I love that dirty, underground, gritty fucking look. Listen, I like the beautiful stuff too.
Yeah.
But like when it comes to horror, that dirty, gritty, grainy, looks like it was shot in someone's dirty fucking basement look.
Yeah.
I love that when it comes to horror because it helps build the environment, that unnerving environment. Like you do not want to feel like you're safe when you're watching a horror movie.
You nailed it. And like I thought to myself before I started shooting in that style, like when is the last time I saw like black, the color black? You don't really even see it in movies nowadays with digital cameras. Like I'm talking like pitch black, Laszlo Kovacs, Warriors, dark rooms and outdoors. It's been just completely replaced by this ugly fucking blue moonlight bullshit, and you can see everything. And, you know, you've seen it a million times, Travis, when you get people walk into the haunted house when they have their flashlights. They don't even fucking need their flashlights because you can see everything in the room. Exactly. It's my biggest problem with cinematography, and it's killing me when it comes to horror.
But the other thing I've seen, too, you probably noticed that fucking annoys me, and that is, and I don't know why, but it's so fucking black that you can't even see the characters. Like, you don't even know what the fuck is going on. Why do so many indie horror filmmakers miss out when it comes to the lighting? I mean, just what it is, too dark or too light?
I hate to say it, man, but it's probably mandated. The studio heads know that people are going to be watching this shit on their phones and in airplanes, and they probably very well want to achieve that kind of old school style, but they're get the rug pulled under them, and they say, no, you got to lighten it up because people are watching this on phones and airplanes, and that's that. Go with it or you're out. I hate to say it, but I have a lot of fun trying to achieve that look, and it's just all part of it for me.
Now, you're you do micro budgeting, which is pretty much no budget at all. That's what for most people who don't know.
Yeah.
So pretty much no budget at all. Now, what are some things that you do as a no budget filmmaker that keeps your film looking fresh, but also have that gritty look to it?
For me, it's all about resources and honesty, especially if I'm working with anyone that's not myself. The first couple of shorts on my YouTube channel, I did all myself in my house using only the resources I had access to. But when I wanted to start bringing actors in, I had to be honest and say, look, at this point in time, this is what we're dealing with. If you're interested, would love to have you on board. But you don't want to fool anyone into thinking it's a production that is going to afford them anything monetarily. You got to be straight up with that. And if people respond to your material, they'll be on board for it. Like Sophia was, and At the End of the Hall, and Sam was. They just murdered it. And I was giving them, hot and ready's from Little Caesars, and you got to be cool with it. But it's going to thrift stores. It's for me, it's setting stuff in periods, Travis. Like all my stuff on YouTube, I try to make period pieces. Do I do it to kill myself because I know it's going to be even harder? No, I absolutely want stuff to have this strange look in time that you can't put your finger on. But it's part of the fun for me. It's jumping on a Facebook group and saying, does anyone have a period car in my town? It's looking for vintage clothes. It's part of the fun. It's part of the fun, but you got to be honest with anyone coming in with expectations.
Now, right now, when it comes to indie horror, there's a lot of filmmakers who are making short films. And it seems like there's only two routes when it comes to short films. And that's YouTube and going the film festival route. Do you wish that there was more options for short filmmakers?
Do I wish that it wasn't $90 to get in a film festival no one's even ever heard of? Absolutely. But I think it will really curse you if you are just trying to chase festivals. I think it's a good thing to be very specific about the type of festival and down to the specific one you want to get into, instead of just blitzkrieging every film festival on Film Freeway. You're wasting your money, and a lot of those guys you have to watch out for. I've heard just horror stories of motherfuckers just stealing people's money, just for the hell of it, because they know people will take that bait and send that stuff out there. But for me, it's networking. From what I hear, the positives are going out there and networking. And if you have something could hit it, I say go send it out. But you got to be careful, man. And the last thing I would suggest anyone do is make something just to try to meet a festival date or get into a film festival, because people can see through that benign attitude towards art. I think you can see through it. So I make stuff for me to see. I make stuff for myself to throw on YouTube that my friends can see. And if people like it, cool. If it gets put in a festival, cool. But my mind's just got to be on the work right now, or I'm going to fall into a trap, Travis.
And I actually did a special on my show. I was talking about the film festival scam. By the way, part 2 is that I know it's been like 2 months. I'm just saying part two is coming out soon. But like, you'll be shocked on, because I had Jay Horton on. I don't know if you know Jay Horton, but Jay Horton's a genius when it comes to indie filmmaking. He makes some great movies. And we were talking about film festivals, and his word was, I think he said 90% of these indie horror film festivals are absolute scams. And I mean, I don't know if it is that amount, but like, when I was doing my piece, I was like, boy, there's so many indie horror film festivals out there now. It's like horror conventions. Like there's so many. There's so many. I mean, the market is flooded with film festivals, and like, you just have to, like you said, you have to be careful. You have to look, how long has this been going on? Who are the judges? Mm-hmm. What is the format of the judges? Where is this going to take place? Is it only online? You just have to be careful, and you have to do your research, because just because, they're doing $25 film festival, fees, like maybe that's not $25, well spent on a film festival no one knows about.
From what I understand, my friend, the biggest scammers are the ones that are trying to get you with that $15 to $20 because you're more inclined to pay it and try to get yourself in there. I mean, everyone wants that laurel on their posters. They can put the poster up, and everyone sees that laurel. I know I got the accolades now. Things are happening. But if you're not doing this for yourself and your own passion, then what the fuck are you even doing, man? I applaud anyone that can get into something like Fantasia or Overlook. I just got into Spooky, and I was just fucking blown away. But I encourage people to just earn it, man, and don't pretend or get fake, because that shit's even going to get worse if you do end up making it, and you're going to lose yourself. So be careful.
I agree. Because I mean, I've definitely ran the term is called laurel farms. That's what our firm does. They're laurel farms, and they're you can buy a laurel, pretty much. You can buy a laurel,
and you can buy views, man. So like when I got 7,000 views for this film that we're talking about at the end of the hall, I was on fucking cloud 9. I could not believe that possibly that many people had even seen something that I did. And yet there's some movies out there with, 1 million views that were bought. So that's when I have to stop and say, do it for the right reasons again, man. So it's tricky.
It is, man. Now, right now, it's a great time for just indie creators in general. I mean, not even just horror. Because, like, with YouTube, even like authors, Amazon, you can get your stuff out there for someone to see. Mm-hmm. But do you think that is also a bad thing, that the product is getting watered down over time?
No, I think there's always going to be good product, and I think good word of mouth is going to help any product. You look at Curry Barker. He just put that milk and cereal feature up, that found footage feature, and it just exploded. And that's just a dude that was just singularly putting stuff out just on YouTube in our horror genre, and it's out there right now and just blowing up. And it's a pretty good movie.
It is.
But I didn't. Yeah, these people that put shit on Tubi, I encourage it. I'd say do that instead of waste your money on film festivals that might be trying to screw you over, because that award could be sitting on your shelf and yet no one will end up seeing your picture and it might not get picked up. But just try to expose yourself as much as you can to actual people that are interested in this, not only to network and meet people, but to get feedback. Like when you're a micro budget filmmaker, one of my biggest lessons, Travis, was humility and being able to take feedback and send my stuff out before I film it, just to see if I was on the right track. And it's very easy to let your ego consume you when you're at this level and you think anything you do is going to be immediately put into a festival and you're going to get whisked away to God knows where. So
Now, how important are, for me as a consumer, someone who watches, not a necessary creator. For me, when I determine what I'm going to buy, rent, watch, I look at reviews. How important is it as a micro budget filmmaker to get your stuff reviewed?
Yeah, it's super important because you're no match against the algorithms of a channel you put your stuff on. You're just no match for it. It will explode one day, and then you will be hard pressed to be getting 10 more views on something that you're really proud of. So word of mouth is everything, man. And this community is actually pretty small. Now that I'm starting to get into it, a lot of people know each other, and stuff gets passed around, not just for business matters, but because we all are so passionate about this particular genre. You know, you don't have like comedy forums for movies at the extent that you do horror fans. We're just maniacs, and we eat up anything that's fresh and original and honest. So any exposure is everything for me.
And that's what I try to do, man. That's why I created this channel. One of the reasons I created the channel, because I mean, there was no spotlight for indie horror creators, and I'm such a fucking fan, man. All the way back to Full Moon, or when I was a kid, man. And the video store, the stuff you would just grab on the video store, like, what the hell is this? You know, and like, I'm such a huge fan of that stuff, and I just feel like not enough attention is like shined on that. You know what I mean? Like, listen, I love A24, but at the same time, it seems like everything is shine on A24. A24 is like, to the casual horror watcher, is considered indie filmmaking, which it is. But like, there's some great micro budget or even lower budget stuff that like just gets tossed, you know, to the side.
Remember going to the video store and going to the horror section and just picking shit solely based on like how creeped out you were by the fucking cover box?
Yes.
I mean, I can tell you, Monkey Shines. When I first saw that fucking monkey from Monkey Shines, I was scared out of my mind. I think that's got to be the number one thing. And we don't see it, man. And you can scroll and scroll and scroll, but when you're holding a physical copy of something, and especially when it's out, remember going to the video store and it's out, and the tape isn't behind the box, you're fucked. You don't even get to watch it that night. Like, you're screwed. That just is gone. It's gone. Now you can find it somewhere. You can watch it. Before it was like, oh, somebody's got it. I guess I gotta wait. But I missed that, man. And that was the way things worked. I worked at a video store for many years, and I would just eat up horror recommendations and stuff like that. So word of mouth is everything, Travis.
100% is. Now, speaking of like movies and nostalgia, you have a podcast show where you and your friends watch movies that you loved in the past to see if they still hold up. Tell us a little bit about your podcast.
So I co-host the Cinema 9 podcast with my buddies Travis and Mike. I grew up with these guys. We went through high school together. We remained very close. When COVID came, everybody in the world and their grandchildren were doing podcasts. So of course we started the movie podcast, and to try to find a niche was extremely hard, man. You got like the podcast dedicated exclusively to like just Nick Cage movies. So we decided let's watch movies that we used to love as kids and just see if they hold up. And we've been surprised, man. You and I were joking about fucking Little Monsters, and I could not, I couldn't count the films we're on episode 202. Stuff I just used to watch every single day is just not good. It's just not good anymore.
Yeah.
But a lot of it's for its time, man, and it's made for that time, and it probably doesn't even know it's going to be looked at in 2024. But it's been a lot of fun. I mean, it gets tricky being a filmmaker myself, and then I go on my podcast and start trashing some shit I just saw at the movie theater. That's going to be a problem pretty soon. I'm going to have to like pull a Stuckman and duck out pretty soon, but it gets tricky to be a critic and a creative. It's pretty interesting, but I'm trying to just sandwich it with positive, negative, positive, and that sort of stuff. And anybody that puts out work, when you start a filmmaking career at any level, Travis, you just see how much fucking work goes into even a piece of shit that is a joke. A lot of people work on it, and it's not like they set out to make a movie god awful. Everybody wants to make a good movie. Sometimes it doesn't happen. So I really try to contain my rancor that more so than my earlier episodes of that show. But it's a lot of fun. We do it every week.
Love it, man. I love it. And I agree with you, man. It's tough. It's tough. But that's why I never do a movie review until I interview the filmmaker first, because I don't want to be the guy who they give him a bad review and now I gotta sit across from them and talk to them and interview them. So, but like it's tough, man, because like when it comes to indie horror movies, I don't gauge them on the same scale as I do, big budget movies. I really don't. I always say that indie horror movies, I give them like a 2-point curve. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I never gauge them, but like. Yeah, I mean, sometimes, listen, at the end of the day, it's my personal taste. Some movies that if I say I don't like, I'm like, it's just not my type of horror movie. You know what I mean? It's just not my type. It might be someone's, but it's not my type. So it's never personal.
Where do you find your stuff?
I do two. So I do Tubi Tuesdays with Tubi Tuesdays, I just literally go down the fucking Tubi rabbit hole and just. I'm pretending like I am, I'm 8 years old and I'm in the video store with my mom.
Yep.
And I'm just randomly picking a movie just based on the cover. I don't read the description or anything. I just based off the cover. I'm like, that looks interesting. Mm-hmm. And I sit there and watch it. But there's only been 2 movies that I've went down the Tubi rabbit hole and I clicked on for a Tubi Tuesday and I never finished. And I never did a review on because I was like, there's no point. I never ever want to bash filmmaker on line or whatever.
Yeah,
but like I was like, these movies are so unwatchable and so bad. There's no point in even finishing them or doing a review. So and I'm gonna tell you one because I don't think I'm gonna even. It was called Election Night. And it was. And it has Donald Trump on the front cover, like his face is being torn off, like type thing.
Sure, of course.
It's on Tubi, and I was like, "This is interesting." A movie about somebody killing Donald Trump, I don't know what it was about. It just the poster just had me intrigued. Donald Trump, right? Horror movie, and the movie wasn't nothing. It was the 15 minutes or 20 minutes I was watching that movie. It had nothing about what I thought it was about. It was more of a, I want to say it was more of a political campaign for Hillary Clinton or something, but like done in the dark or something. And I was like, okay, well, this is not. And then at that point, I had to click out to see what the description said, and it said,
"Oh my gosh!"
And it said something completely different. It was like, a killer who's a Donald Trump fan who's killing people, and like I was like, okay, at what point? I'm 20 minutes in, no one's died, and this guy hasn't even left his living room. Where is this? You know what I mean? I was like, I'm not even going to go try to finish and see where this is going. Election Night.
I think you took the bait, man, because I mean, it's been like that for years. Like you watch, like think about Ed Wood when they would literally make movies just based on a poster just to get asses in seats. And it's the same thing, man. I bet that click was generated for your 20-minute viewing of Election Night.
Yeah.
Somebody got paid or they moved up a tier It's just all a big game, man. So that's why I try to keep it cool on YouTube. I mean, we'll see where it goes, man. So I wrapped one last month. My next one, the follow up to At the End of the Hall, and on every one of these, I just keep learning more, and I learn more. But like I said before, like you always have to be honest with everyone you're working with. Like I can tell you a funny story. Like I shoot on my phone, Travis, and this is an all-day shoot at a historic schoolhouse in St. Charles, Illinois. And I've just got my phone, which I love to shoot on, and I've got 2 hours more to shoot. My fucking phone is dying, so I got to go out to my car every like 10 minutes and charge it. And for someone like me who is an introvert, it is like torture. It's torture. But it's stuff like that you just have to push through if you want to have any success at this level, at this micro budget level. Stuff is just going to happen that you cannot anticipate, and you have to just charge right into it, or else you're going to quit and walk away and regret it later. But it's little things like that, man. It's Jimmy John's not getting the order right, and you apologize profusely, even though you're behind schedule and you don't know how the fuck you're going to get all your shots, and this whole thing might be scrapped. But it's interesting, man. It really keeps me alive. I like the energy of it.
Love it, man. I love it. By the way, I just want to say one thing about Tubi Tuesday. I gave a movie a horrible review recently, and it has blown up. Yeah, I'm talking about it has blown up. I mean, this thing got almost 1,000 views on my YouTube channel, and like the filmmaker actually reached out to me, and he was like, "Oh my goodness!" I was wondering why my Tubi thing ticker was like increasing so much, and I came across your YouTube channel. So he'll be coming on for an interview next month. But yeah, it's called Rectuma. Yes.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this, man, because I haven't really had time to talk to anybody about this. Letterboxd. What the fuck is Letterboxd?
I don't know. What is Letterboxd?
It's like this site that everyone goes to and rates movies now that they see. They go immediately to Letterboxd and they'll rate the movie.
Really?
And I guess it helps a lot of people out, but I got to say I don't really know that much about it.
I don't know anything about it either, man. I mean, I go to I screw this up every time. IMBD. I think it's right. But I go to IMBD a lot of times and look at IMBD has some honest ass reviews. There's some honest reviews. I feel like we go to Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes used to be a great source for reviews. Yeah. But I feel like the reviews there are not no longer honest to me.
Right.
But IMBD, you will get, yes, of course, you would get a filmmaker's mom who's saying, "Oh my goodness, it's the greatest movie ever," and blah blah blah.
Yep.
But you will get some critics who are like, "Oh my goodness, this was dog crap, and this is the reason why." You know what I mean? Like they will literally break it down why this movie is bad or why this movie is so great. So, and I love IMDb for that.
Well, yeah, it's tricky. So, what are you interested in terms of indie horror nowadays? Is there anywhere you'd like to see it go?
I would like to see filmmakers. And this is me kissing your ass, Eric. I would like to see there's a lot of filmmakers who are doing it, who are doing what you're doing, which is something completely new, interesting, but also giving kind of homage to old school horror. So I definitely like seeing that. I don't want to see indie horror going into, and so this is a huge possibility that it might. If you asking me, because I feel like I'm the expert as the audience, right? So like, I'm a YouTube channel who I'm not a filmmaker. So I have the most honest opinion because I feel like a filmmaker's opinion on films is not as honest. It's a little biased. But like if I could forecast it, and I hope it's not the case, but like part of me wondering is after a while, is indie horror going to become to audiences a joke? Because there's just so many people who are not even filmmakers. There's just a lot of people who are just making films.
Sure.
If that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
It's plagued with people who are making films. And I don't even think that I think they are just making films. I don't think they're making it as art. I don't think they're making it to please audiences. I think they're just making it to be able to sit at the bar on a Friday night and say, "Hey, I made a film," and it's up on Tubi.
Yeah, you got to remember back in the day when everyone heard the stories about Kevin Smith coming up with 33,000 and Eduardo Sanchez buying his camera for Blair Witch at Walmart and then having to return it because he had no money. There's no restrictions on filmmakers nowadays to just get out there and make something happen, which is great in a situation like myself or anybody that has that real drive. But it's also kind of a problem, man, because we get swarmed by content. We got you on YouTube Tuesdays taking a chance,
Yeah.
probably after scrolling for 2 hours, and then you fucked your whole night because you landed on election night. There's just a lot of content, man. So that it gets tricky. But the genres, they'll come in waves. I mean, I think we're kind of seeing the twilight years of elevated horror, and things are getting to start to be a little bit more fun. That's kind of what I've been craving. Like, I love that dead serious A24 shit, but I think the tide's turning a little bit, and we're starting to see things that are just a little more energetic and fun, which I think is pretty interesting, man. And anthologies are coming back too. There's one called the Mortuary Collection that I thought was really fucking good, and it had some old school vibes in it. So I would definitely love to see anthologies come back. I like the Creep Show for the most part, the new one. It's had some extremely cool episodes, but even that is kind of missing that. It's kind of missing that grind, man. I like my Creep Show pulled off the sticky porn theater floor. That's what I want it to look like. You know, I don't want it to look like everything.
A little smelly.
Yep.
A little smelly. It's a hint. Just a hint of punk.
Yep,
it's a hint of punk.
Yep, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, I think we're in a good spot for it, but these things come in waves.
But also, too, so I have a question. Why do, because, listen, I used to watch indie horror. It used to have that grimy, funky look to it. You know what I mean? It just looked like a men's bathroom at a dive bar, you know?
Sure.
And had that look to it and had a smell to it. And that's what separated it from, the big budget New Line Cinema crap, which I love that too. But like, it was just something different. You watch, Christopher Band's Demonic Toys, stuff like it just had that look to it.
Yep.
Why are so many indie horror filmmakers going for that big budget look instead of sticking to the indie horror roots of that underground feel?
I don't want to speak for anybody else except for myself, but I think there's a big problem with people assuming that it's all about the equipment that you use. Where I'm at this stage, I'll go online, look for resources and people to help out. And I have been turned down by people that I'd like to recruit on my team that just wanted to know what camera I was using. If it wasn't a fucking Epic Red Dragon, they were like, sayonara, that's going to be a piece of shit. And if I didn't have more than 5 people on my crew, they'd assume that it's going to be a piece of shit. So I think there's a really icky attitude towards prestige equipment and digital filmmaking and budget that's really taking the place of storytelling. And that's all I give a shit about is storytelling. So I think it's a problem, man. Everyone wants their stuff to look like it just premiered on Shudder. And like I told you before, it's too safe.
Yeah. And it's a shame, man. It's a shame because like that's what indie horror used to be, man. It used to be unsafe. It should be completely different. It should be, I've heard it saying like it used to be like punk rock. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was something completely different. It didn't follow any boundaries, it didn't follow any rules. And like you watch a lot of indie horror and you're like, well, this looks like something, like you said, it'll be on Shudder. This looks like something that A24 or Blumhouse would make. And it even has that feel.
Well, I don't know. Like I can watch found footage that's shot on, old school Sony can't like Hell House, LLC. That's in my opinion, that's one of the best horror movies of the past 15 years. And it looks like trash. But it gets visceral on you, man. Nobody's watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre in 4K because they don't want any grit on the celluloid. They watch it because there's a danger to it. There's a ferocity to something that feels like you shouldn't be watching it. And I like to see more people chase that, man. And I may evolve too. But I'm liking the place I'm at right now. So I've taken, like, what I have done, I got to say, with At the End of the Hall, I really wanted it to look like this is a copy of a copy of a copy, and someone just kind of discovered it. But I kind of knocked it off from my latest one, which is Tattletale, which is another horror, takes place at an old schoolhouse. And the teacher has got to deal with her students. They find a book on witchcraft, and shit goes crazy because they conjure a demon to try to kill their students, their fellow classmates. But I didn't want it to look like that. I still wanted a very specific aesthetic for the film, Travis, but I didn't want to look like there was flies buzzing all over the frame like I did in At the End of the Hall. So it all should depend on the story. It all should come from that a blueprint of the script. That's why I tried not to get bogged down by how many people are on my crew, what the fuck my camera looks like, or how much I got in a Kickstarter campaign. And that's a whole nother story.
Yes. I would love to talk to you about that eventually. But listen, Eric, where can anyone find you and your work, my friend?
Check me out at Slithery D Films. Check me out on Instagram. That's where I post a lot of like teasers from my new projects, posters, reviews of stuff that I'm into. That's on Insta. YouTube, my channel is just called Slithery D Films. Check me out there. So I'd love to hear from anybody that's kind of speaking the same language as you and I are, man. So it's good to talk to someone that's in Simpatico.
I love it, man. And if you're interested, man, I would love to have you on one of my future live indie horror.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Roundtables, man. So I'm
gonna have a lot to say.
Yes, I think I'm gonna be having a no budget version edition of that coming up soon. So I would love to have you on this guest.
Would love it. Consider me there.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you for coming to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and that's Albert. Eric Albert Brunstrom. I'm sorry, so it's been a long day.
I hear you.
Thank you for coming. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Yes.